What is going on? What is going on? Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Coffee and Conversation with Kevin Smith. I'm glad to have people join, like, share. Definitely join, like, share. This is definitely a conversation you don't want to miss. If you have any athletes, someone that your kid, anyone, somebody that had a dream to be an athlete, anyone that just loves sports. Today's topic, we're going to talk about um, dealing with mental health and sports and what the stronghold that it has on athletes. All right. So before we get started, I got to do the Java of the day. So the Java of the day is Sons of Amazon. Now, I was told that this is supposed to be one of the strongest coffees. So it's Sons of Amazon, strong and fair. So I was reading it because I was like, man, I don't know how much I need to take of this because I don't want to be up all night. But this is supposed to be some strong coffee. So again, the Java of the day is Sons of Amazon, strong and fair. You can get this on Amazon. All right. So let's get to today's conversation. I'm happy. Um, this is going to be a great conversation. I have three amazing people. So I will definitely be, ready to really have a conversation when it comes to sports, mental health, and then them talk about their journey. So I have um, the Jacksons, Kevin and Bernita Jackson, and they will introduce themselves. And then I have Mr. Sean Davis. I know all three of them. The Jacksons, we went to the same church, and Mr. Davis, he is one of our founders of the great military fraternity that I'm in. So I'm definitely happy to have them on this show and conversation, talking about the stronghold of mental health that it has on athletes. So welcome, Ms. Bernita and KJ and Mr. Davis, Mr. Sean. How y'all doing?
What's
Doing
going
great.
on? How
Great.
y'all
Happy
doing?
to be
What's
here.
up?
What's up, everybody?
How y'all
All
living?
right. All right. So before we get started in the conversation, if y'all can come, just introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you got going on, put a plug in for whatever you got going on, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I'll let the lovely couple go first.
Well, I appreciate it, Eagles fan. All right. Go Cowboys. But anyway, I'm Kevin Jackson. To my lovely wife, Renita Jackson. And we are KBJ, as some people call us. That's just our initials, Kevin and Renita Jackson. Our occupation, we wear many hats, but our occupation is in sports. We are coaches. We coach at the mighty Midwestern State University. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Go Mustangs. Join the Stain gang. Maroon and gold, everybody out there. But we also run a business called KBJ Academy. We travel the country doing camps, clinics, and retreats and educating people about the recruiting process. And we do public speaking, different engagements, different things like that. We're published authors. Play College Basketball is the name of the book. So if you have someone that you know is trying to play at the next level, at the college level, go get that book. You can get it off of Amazon. It's 8 chapters, quick read, but it has done wonders for people that have purchased it and learned from it. And our podcast, last thing I'm gonna say is Coffee with KBJ. We have 7 seasons of it, and you can get it on Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com. So it's everyday life for everyday people, based on biblical principles, and then just some of it is just Bernita and I just being ourselves, letting our hair down and having fun while drinking coffee. So we happy to be here.
Oh, I'm okay. I was waiting for the missus, but I guess you spoke for her as well. Hey, I'm gonna start off by saying this. I'm Sean. They call me the GOAT of many other names, but EAGLES. Eagles. I need to put that out there. Eagles.
You put it
So
out
with
there.
so with that being said, yeah.
I'm gonna have to stop this show already because of
With
the
that being
foolishness.
said, I'm Sean Davis. I am one of 5 founders of the great Cyro Phi Military Fraternity Incorporated, and of course, Kevin Smith is one of our excellent brothers that are part of the organization who's done great things for us. I'm a 21-year Army veteran. I retired back in 2013. I have my bachelor's degree in sports and recreation management. I have done youth coaching. I'm a huge, as you heard me say, I'm a huge football coach. I've coached anywhere from middle school down to the lowest level of young adults playing flag, well as full contact and no contact at all. I also have a podcast or a morning show with Tremere. We call him Savvy. I'm so used to calling him Savvy, but Travion Amir, which is called First Formation, that premieres every morning from 09 to 1100 hours, and for you civilian personnel, that's 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. And we talk sports. Him and I talk sports. He's a San Francisco 49er fan. I don't fault him for that. He's a lot like the Dallas Cowboy fans. They're lost in the sauce, but that's neither here nor there. But that's what we do that on. Cut the show. Yeah, no, but that's pretty much what I do, man. I'm married. I have 2 daughters. I have a 23-year-old daughter and I have a 7-year-old daughter that's going on 37. But other than that, I have a granddaughter as well. And I appreciate you, Kevin Smith, allowing me to be on this show.
All right, yes, sir. Appreciate y'all. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and dive deep into it. So stronghold mental health has on athletes. So this question is for anybody, just to start us off. What have you seen in today's sports world when it comes to mental health that is different from the past?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's different. I mean, it wasn't even a word in our vocabulary when I was in school. And the type of, coaching that went on back then, it was just normal. And I think we turned out fine. So, but it just wasn't even in our vocabulary. We never even talked about like some of these big words that are being thrown around because the whole premise of it was to prepare you for life, right? Like the coaches were trying to toughen you up and prepare you for life, teach you how to work with others. And now it's, just a lot of language that we didn't have back then that I'm sure we experienced the same emotions. We just didn't have the language to identify that this generation has, and certainly not the resources. But I do think that that's a positive thing that we do have the language now. We do make it, a priority to create those environments where mental health is factored in, and we are required days off. You know, we didn't have no days off.
No.
But it's totally different. Things are totally different now, and I think in a good way. I think in a good way because now we can improve the student athletes' experience in ways that it wasn't healthy for us, even though we turned out fine. At least we think we're fine. But I think that there's some stuff that they have access to now that had we had it, we probably could have worked through some things, got some better coping mechanisms, all kinds of things that could have benefited us, from counselors to just like mandatory days off, just being aware of your emotional state or even mental state. We didn't have the language, we didn't know. We were just hooping. But
No, that's exactly right. Like Bernita said, times definitely are different back then. I mean, as far as toughing up goes, like if you were about to be on the last leg of your sprint and you looked like you was about to stop, your coach was on you. You better go hard. You better do that. Now that's almost describes as overly being aggressive in today's world. And maybe it was back then, but to Bernita's point, I just think that there's a language out there that's available now, resource-wise, that describing all of the things that we went through. Because whether it's now or back then, we went through the same pressures, anxiety, data overload, all kinds of different things, pressures even outside of your sport. Expectations that was high, standard wise. You even from just an individual motivational self, just I want to be the great. I got to work on all of these different things. Like you didn't have a lot of people using their platform kind of like they do now these days to describe those things, to where it's kind of like the Me Too movement, to where it's like, oh shoot, you experienced that? Well, me too. I didn't, I didn't know, but back then you almost kind of like afraid if you were legitimately experiencing those things to talk about it because you were deemed as soft or a quitter or maybe some other vocabulary that someone wants to describe you as. So it's definitely different times for sure, but I do definitely agree. I mean, we did come out fine. At least I don't know about Eagles fans, but we came out perfectly fine if you were representing the Cowboys for sure. And you were athletically inclined. I'm gonna say that. Yeah. Sorry, Sean. I did not imply that for you.
Oh no, you're fine. Oh no, of course. You're fine.
No, you're fine.
You're fine. You're fine. So, Kevin, what was your question again? Because I had some background noise, so I'm kind of missed it.
So, what, as far as when it comes to mental health, what, what's been the change from, past to present? Like, what have you seen changes, or are there any changes that you've seen that have happened when it comes to mental health and sports?
So I will definitely have to agree with KBJ and them. Mental health has always been there, but it seems to be more in the forefront nowadays compared to back in the days. I'm probably the oldest person on here. So back then, mental health wasn't it seemed out front like that. It was more so much mental health was behind the scenes. People had the same situations and issues, but it was just I think people were able to cope with it more better than they are able to now, because times are like KBJ and them said, times have changed so much. And please excuse the background noise. Times have changed so much since the 70s, 80s, and now we're in 2020s and things of that nature. So people handle things differently. We all know how we grew up compared to how the kids grow up now. It's totally different. In regards to going outside to play. You back in my day, all the kids was outside. You couldn't find a street that didn't have kids outside. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that was a way to deal with any type of mental problems that you may have, because you're around your friends at school. I get it, but when you get home, you ain't worried about all the stuff that you're dealing with, that you had to deal with at school. Yeah, you had homework and all that other good stuff, but now you're around your friends. You can actually talk to them face to face. Now, today's society, kids talk over phones. It's all about the fingers. How fast can your fingers move? You know what I'm saying? To get that text message across. And then the bad thing about text messages is the fact that you really can't show emotions in a text message. If I'm talking to you face to face, you see everything I'm trying to tell you across my face. You know what I'm saying? You could tell if I have some type of issue going on with me as I'm talking with you, because it'll show on my face. You can't see that in the text message. And in sports, when it was dealing with sports, like KBJ and them said, man, my coaches were hard. Like now, coaches can't be as strict as they were when we was coming up. Man, my coaches, they didn't care. My dad was one of my coaches, one for football. But when my dad wasn't there, if he had to work, them coaches was like my father. Because anything in which I was supposed to do and didn't do, they had all rights to lay hands on me. And y'all know what I mean by laying hands on me. So, it was just, when it came to mental health in regards to sports, I just feel like it was a different animal back then. It just wasn't. I don't know. I don't even. I really can't put my finger on it on how we coped with it back then. And being younger, but we just found ways to do it. And I think in today's society, it's just a little different. It's more. I think it's a little more complex.
Okay. All right. So, as y'all were talking, I was writing some things down. When y'all talked about the expectations, now when it comes to um, the coach versus and Bernita and KJ, y'all are coaches. Um, but as a parent, you know, sometimes parents try to live through their kids. And when they live through their kids might not want to do exactly what their parents want them to do, but they're trying to please their parents, but that can affect their mental health because they're they're torn between wanting to do what their parents want them to do or wanting to do something different. Their parents might want them to be an all-star football person or make it to the NBA, but they just want to go and play soccer. Two totally different sports. But the thing is, mentally, it's messing with them. So, how do you all, and all three of y'all, I mean, all y'all are parents, but I'll ask the question in these two ways. How do you react as a coach who's trying to push, that for your athletes, but at the same time, as a parent, you're trying to make sure that your kid does what he needs to do, but sometimes it's not what he wants to do.
Well, I'll start there. First of all, Berdina and I, we see this all the time. Um, Honestly, and I hate to say it, is very common, especially in today's world. Especially being out on the recruiting trail. I can't tell you how many conversations we've had with student athletes who, are great at the sport of basketball, for example. I'll just keep it at basketball since we're basketball coaches. But while you're talking to them and you're asking them questions about what they want to get out of, the university, how they want to navigate life, you hear a lot about what their mama, or what their father, or what their grandma or cousin want. You don't really hear what they specifically want. So we try our best to fish through that, and we're honest with families. We're like, because we always tell people this is not, and we mentioned this in that book, Play College Basketball, that we wrote. Like, as much as the coach wants to recruit you, as great as you are, you and the family better recruit the coach as well, because there has to be a fit both ways. It can't just be a fit for the coach, right? But even in the sense of navigating, it has to be a fit. I'll just say on the coach's side, in a sense of we need to know what we're getting, and we're not getting mom and dad who has the dream of playing basketball. We're trying to get you. But if you don't have this dream, then we can't be wasting our time with this recruiting effort. And we sure can't spend $40,000, $50,000, on your education and a scholarship, and you're not sure, right? Because you're living in the dream. Plus, that helps us also know when we're fishing through or navigating through those conversations. Okay, let's just say we miss something and you do come on the campus. When we start to see these signs of, mental drop-offs, we know now where it stems from, because we've already did kind of that work on the back end, even though we maybe have missed something, and you start to see it on your campus. And even now, as a staff, we get equipped nowadays. That's also something different from back then. We get equipped nowadays from these athletic departments on ways of handling mental health with athletes. They bring in sports psychologists, which I do recommend every athlete invest in one. Even if there's nothing wrong, just get useful tools. But they come and equipped us as coaches to handle these situations like this. And then the last thing I'll say, because we do have a daughter, and people always ask us all the time, "Are you gonna make your daughter play basketball?" We always say no, not gonna force her. Now, do she seem to like basketball and be in the gym? Yeah, I mean it's in her blood. She got it honest. Both of her parents play mid-major Division 1 sports. You know what I mean? So, and since she's been out the womb, she was what 3 weeks out the hospital, and she's on the bench in the car seat, and we're at the national tournament. So it's kind of embedded in her, but we don't force it on her because playing sports, getting the scholarship, that was our dream. It don't have to be hers. I mean, it's cool if there was a mutual thing between the kid and the parent, but it don't have to be. But we do our best too on educating that, even if we are recruiting them about that kind of stuff, because just as much as we are honest with the parents and the recruit, we want the same in return. So we aren't just two coaches that's going to be like, yeah, come on, whatever works, we'll deal with it later. No, we try to navigate through this stuff before it actually happens.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I agree with that, but a lot of people, aren't necessarily secure in themselves and their experiences. So I think when you are insecure, then you do try to live through vicariously through your children. When you are secure in who you are and the experiences God allowed you to have, you don't have to live through nobody, and your child can live their dream, and you can just support them in whatever avenue they, choose. But I will share a quick story with y'all. Years ago, we had recruited a kid, and I mean, everything looked good on the outside looking in. I mean, oh, I love it, coach. I'm gonna work hard. A great family. She signed, she committed, and her whole family, so mom, dad, and siblings, uprooted from New York to move there with her, which is very common in college athletics. Families will move across the country to go be with their kiddos, while they're entering into that stage of life. But anyway, they moved down there all the way from New York, and let me tell you, 2 weeks in, sis was like, "Coach, I can't do this. My dad wants me to do this. I don't really want to do it." And it blew my mind away, number one, because we done spent the scholarship.
Yeah.
Number two, this is my first time hearing it, and we recruited you, and you never mentioned that you didn't have a love for the game. And number three, girl, your whole family has done moved down here and changed their whole life for you. And so I just told her, I said, well, I'm not going to tell your dad. You have to tell him. And it was a big deal, to be honest with you. Like, they went to my athletic director, and they tried to say I kicked her off the team and I did all this other stuff, because this young lady was that afraid to tell her dad that she really didn't want to play basketball, like she didn't want to let him down. And so unfortunately, we as coaches sometimes get these negative labels on us because the student athlete, the child is afraid to tell the parent, this is not really what I want to do. So I would just encourage parents to have real authentic conversations with their kids. And then you can tell if they really love doing it, or you the one going and waking them up all the time to go to practice, or you the one telling them to go get your tail in the gym or go to the weight room. Because if it's in you, I tell you, it was in me. And so my mom had to tell me, come in the house, girl, it's 2 a.m., stop shooting. The neighbors are sleeping. I had to get put on restrictions from going to the rec center. It wasn't, Bernita, get your tail out the bed, and go work on your game. And so I think as a parent, there's some things that they could tell you, but then there's some things that are implied. Right. And if it's your dream, you're probably the one pushing them to just do the everyday work ethic and training that's required to be an athlete. But I just wanted to share that story because that kind of stuff does go on, and all the way up to, families kind of uprooting for their kids, and the kids being that afraid to tell their parents, like, this isn't really what I want to do. I'm just doing this for you. But it happens more often than probably what we realize. But no, I think parents got to kind of help discern that, because kids don't necessarily want to let you down.
Right. Yep. That's good.
Yeah. So for me, I've been through it too. Especially it's crazy because you'd be amazed how many parents do that, and even at a young age, some of these parents try to live their best life through even when their kids are real small, and they put such high expectations on their young kids and expect so much from them. And they're young, they're still learning the sport. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these kids don't know. And my bit of advice would be to, allow your child to pick the sport in which they want to play. You know what I'm saying? Allow them to go through all the sports. Let them play, let them run track, let them, play soccer, let them play basketball, let them play football, lacrosse, what baseball, t-ball, whatever it is, let them play all the sports. That's going to let them know what they truly want to do. Now, it's funny because I'm gonna tell y'all this, and I hate to tell. I really don't want to say this, but I'm gonna say this. Actually, I'm gonna be cool with saying this. So I came up playing football all my life. My dad was a huge football player, and I'm about to tell y'all something that I really don't tell people. So the reason why I'm a Dallas Cowboy hater is this reason and this reason particularly. When I was probably elementary school. Yeah, I was probably in elementary school, maybe 5th grade, 6th grade. I was playing Pop Warner football. I was in elementary school. My dad got a letter in the mail from the Dallas Cowboys to come try out. He actually got a letter to try out for the Dallas Cowboys. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was ecstatic because at that point in time I was an actual Cowboys fan. I was excited. I knew about Drew Pearson, Tony Hill, Tony Dorsett, Roger Staubach, all of them. You know what I'm saying? Knew all of them. My dad got the tryout letter, showed it to everyone. He was excited, nervous, and everything. I remember him going. I remember myself telling all my friends at school, my dad about to go try out for the Cowboys. My dad about to go play for the Cowboys. He goes out there, tries out, comes back. I couldn't wait to talk to him. Dad, what's up? Let's hear it. When we going, let's do it. Yeah, I didn't make the team. What? Now my dad,
froze up. See,
I don't know about his hands. I don't know about his hands or anything else. But my dad was fast. I couldn't beat my dad racing for years. But anyway, I asked him, I said, what happened? Like, why didn't you make the team? He was like, it was somebody faster than me and caught better than I did. I was like, are you serious, Dad? He's like, yeah, that's just the real guy. He said it's going to be people like that. So that's what turned me off and stopped me from liking the Cowboys. Ever since then, I was like, forget the Cowboys. I ain't got nothing to do with them. They cut my dad. I don't like it. I don't want nothing to do with them. Forget the Cowboys. So, but my dad never. Yeah,
wow.
My
wow.
dad.
3 years later, after knowing you, I finally find out why you are such a hater.
Because I don't tell nobody. Because I don't tell nobody that. I don't tell nobody.
Wow.
Every Cowboy, strong Cowboy hater. You know why y'all strong haters? Because deep down inside, y'all have a connection to the boys. It's okay though. I knew it. You know what? I knew it because ain't nobody going out their way to put no jersey on the back of their chair like you did. All of this stuff. I knew it. Thank you for sharing that, Sean. You know what? This podcast has been great so far.
So I get it. My dad didn't try to live through me. I tried to be the best football player that I could be. But when it's all said and done, like when it comes to your child, man, allow your child like the Jackson said, man, let your child be who they are, man. Don't force your child to do something that he or she truly don't want to do, because they're not going to have fun with it. Like Miss Jackson said, Mrs. Jackson said, when it comes down to it, if you got to force your child to do something, and when it comes to a sport, they really not in it. When you have to stop them from doing everything that is that revolves around that sport is when they're really in it. When they eat, sleep, poop the sport. When you can't watch nothing on TV but that sport because they watching it. When you can't go nowhere and they want something that has to deal with that sport, that's when they're fully engaged in that sport. They are fully engaged in that sport. Now, don't get me wrong. It has a tendency at times to maybe switch and flip They may be in the football, say middle school, and then all of a sudden, come 10th, 11th grade, more of their friends done switch from football to basketball, and they want to switch. You know what I'm saying? And they got a more of a passion for basketball because everybody that can play football can't play basketball. Everybody that can play basketball can't play football, but some people can do both. Some people are just true athletes. Those are true athletes. People that can play multiple sports are true athletes. They can do every single thing. But some people don't like contact, so they don't play football. But some people say basketball is a contact sport as well. It depends on who you ask, because there's a lot of contact in basketball, whether you know it or not. They don't wear the mouthpieces for nothing. Obviously, they don't wear the mouthpieces for nothing. Obviously, mask and all of that. So it all depends. But yeah, being a parent, my daughter, she's 7. My oldest one, I didn't have to worry about that. She did cheer. She really did. She tried softball for a little bit, but she was more toward cheer. My daughter right now, she's doing gymnastics. I don't know, but she's 7. We'll see. Right now, she can't deal with this Texas heat, so she don't like to be outside for nothing. So we tried in soccer. She's like, do I got to play outside? We was like, yeah, that's what they play. No, I don't want to play then. I don't want to play. I'm not finna force her. She don't want to play. She don't want to play. But hopefully she'll change her mind about soccer, volleyball. Maybe she'll play basketball. We'll see. It all depends. But whenever she decides, I'm gonna be behind her 100%, and that's what these student athletes need: a parent who's gonna be behind them 100%, regardless of how their sporting career turned out. Be behind your kids 100%.
All right. I appreciate it. Man, I learned something new. That I didn't know.
Don't you go around telling my business now. Don't go around there telling my business.
It's actually out. I mean,
I'm just saying.
I mean, it's out. I don't have to tell it. All right. So, one of the things that I wrote down is mental health and how the sports world played a big part in the pandemic. I remember when the pandemic hit, and I'll go with the NBA. They had this bubble, and teams were in this one location. You couldn't go out the bubble. If you went out the bubble, you got fined, or like all this crazy stuff started happening. But the thing is, we were all trapped in our homes. But sports was the thing that brought everyone together. Sports was the thing that helped people get through the hard times. And so I just want you all to touch on that. Like, how did you see sports and mental health come to the head to where it really was a big thing to help with mental health and people's homes during the pandemic?
I'm gonna say this right. When it came to COVID, being that it was something that no one knew about, everybody was nervous. Everybody was scared. Social distancing was beyond anything we would ever imagine. We've always seen like third world countries wearing the mask. They've been wearing masks for years. Some of these third world countries have been wearing masks for years. And we was like, oh, why they always wearing masks? Oh, blah, blah, blah. Then we find ourselves in masks. And we found ourselves in masks for a minute. People were starting to hyperventilate. People couldn't be around, couldn't keep the mask on for long. People trying to cough, and somebody will cough next to you, and you look, start sliding, because you just didn't know. When it came to COVID and mental health, it gave us a whole new perspective on just safety in itself. Like when we had to go to virtual meetings, virtual phone calls, we couldn't actually physically, how I spoke about earlier, how when we were younger, we would go outside and play with our friends face to face. When all of that was taken away, it took a huge toll on us mentally. I think that's for everyone across the board, because we was like, man, I gotta talk to my friend over the phone, which we was doing, but to have to do it is something totally different. When it came to sports, y'all remember when They were talking about cutting a lot of the sports. A lot of the major sports we didn't even know if we was gonna have it. Basketball was one. It was questionable. They didn't know. Well, are we gonna have games? I think they canceled a few games because of COVID. They postponed them and everything until they got the bubble set up and all of that. Football, remember football? They stopped a couple of the football games because, matter of fact, the football games they didn't even have nobody in the stadium. They was playing games with no one in the stadium. That was new to us, man. And that was a mental issue for a lot of people because some people use those things, those games and stuff like that as an outlet. And for that to be taken away from you so drastically at the snap of a finger is a huge pill to swallow. You know what I'm saying? A huge pill to swallow. Mind you, the kids in school. Like I'm sure the Jacksons, I know they had a hard time, and I'm sure they're gonna tell us. I'm sure that was an adjustment. Because kids, they was doing virtual schooling. Kids was doing school from home. They was getting online through computers, doing their classes. My daughter did it. Yeah, she wasn't but in kindergarten, but she was still doing it. They had to catch classes through school. Like, that's a lot. And I just didn't know how long it was gonna last. No one knew how long it was gonna last. And I think everybody was ready for it to be over with. We know that's during COVID and the bubble season for the NBA, the bubble, that was that's that asterisk Laker season. I give Trevion a huge problem with that. He always claim, oh, we just won an NBA title back in blah blah. Bro, that asterisk. Make sure you put that asterisk up there because that wasn't the full season, bro. That wasn't the full season. A lot of people were sick. A lot of people couldn't play the way they want to play. There wasn't no fans. Like, it wasn't really. To me, it wasn't even basketball. It was like a bunch of pickup games. To me, I felt like it was a bunch of pickup games in a bubble. Well, when you go to the gym, you play. You play running gun basketball, and ain't nobody in the gym, but waiting for the next person. I got next. Put my name on the board. I got next. Hey, I got next. I got next. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was to me. That's what it felt like to me. But he wants that championship. I let him get half of it, but it's still an asterisk. Make sure you put that asterisk on it. But yeah, sports in the pandemic was huge. But I'm glad we out of it. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I'll say, well, for me personally, it's two sides of the coin for me, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of people. So on one side, you had the pandemic, which was mentally stressful for, like you said, Sean, everybody. But you also had a lot of social issues going on during that time as well. So those are two things right there that are not putting the vast majority of the world in a good mental state of mind. And then you add the rigors of sport, because on the other side, sport is also a form of well-being for people. So I know for me, when you take that away, if that's something that's a big part of my life, especially for my well-being, that's something not only that I coach, that I do, but I also watch for well-being purposes. And you adding a whole bunch of other stuff. My wife gets mad at me all the time because all of our TVs are on ESPN. Even if she watches something before she wake up, I went to bed, it was on this channel, and I woke up, it's on ESPN. Like, that's my well-being. But when you take it away and there's nothing, oh yeah, you think I'm gonna have some mental problems? I'm gonna probably have a lot. And I would probably definitely, say that I'm sure it was for a lot of people, let alone a lot of athletes, because of the differences of how we interact, how we supposed to practice. If you're not a mental rep person and you so used to doing things physically, then when you have to go virtually to get mental reps or get mental instructions, that's a whole different coping mechanism that you have to deal with that you don't normally do. So everything stretched the norms. I read something earlier, 35% of athletes struggle with, no matter if you high profile or low profile, 35% struggle with depression, anxiety, overkill data wise, and even they struggle with having well being, which they get as a release mechanism from a lot of the things that they deal with mentally from the sport, which is a whole nother topic. So, I mean, that's what it was for me for sure, too, as well as like I said, I'm pretty sure it was for a lot of athletes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You definitely that's why exercise is so good for us, right? Because it releases those endorphins, which bring out the happy moods and feelings. So yes, it's definitely something that's needed. But even from a spectator standpoint, which is what y'all are talking about, watching the sports professionally, that was why sports was created thousands of years ago in Rome. You know, it was to create an outlet, a form of entertainment, something to get the people's minds off of the everyday stresses of life. And so when all of that got put on pause, yeah, I could definitely, it makes sense why we all kind of, were impacted by it. Us from a coaching perspective and coaching young ladies at the college level, a huge part of it was just trying to get them to not let it consume them. And so we were able to kind of step in. At the time, we were at Texas Wesleyan University in Fort Worth. We were able to step in after they had a very down year during COVID, only won one game, but we were able to step in and show them how to still, get your workout in every day. Whether we can get in the gym together or not, you can still work out in your room. You can still do this, you can still do that. And when we all come back together, then we'll be, stronger together. And so we were able to turn that program around pretty quickly and win 25 games because we didn't let it consume us. I think the big thing was that they were focused on COVID. And I'm not saying just act like it don't exist and be wild. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is don't let it consume you. Move on with life. If you go into a quarantine, knock your little 10 days out and then come back and let's get back after it. But just trying to get them to think about the big picture, because I do think everybody thought, even myself, will we ever come out of this? Is this going to be life as usual for the rest of our lives? I think we all thought we would be wearing masks, for a much longer time, and we didn't know. And so, I mean, one of the things I do try to get them to understand is we're kind of living through a time that is going to be in our children's history books, right? Their books are going to include COVID and how it impacted the world. But for them, they needed to be taught how to not let it consume them, how to just adjust. And I think because of that, we were able to have some success. And it was good for them mentally, physically, psychologically, all of the above. Even the fans, they got excited. They came back out, started watching games again. And so I thought it was good for everybody. But I do think kind of just going through it when it was fresh, I think we all kind of didn't know. But I love sports, though. I think that's the whole point of sports, is to give us something to look forward to, entertain us. If we choose to play it, then it brings a different level of just love and engagement for the sport. But yeah, COVID impacted us at every single level, professional on down to the little kids, So I think every level was impacted. And now that we're removed from it, we're starting to see some of the aftermath from the mental health perspective as well.
Okay. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to transition into this because this is something that I've seen, and I know all three of you all have seen this. And I know that the Jacksons probably seen it, in coaching as high school students enter the college realm. When it comes to the balance of you going from high school, you're in your parents' house, and then you transition to college. Now you're on your own, you're hanging out, you get with the wrong crowd, you get in trouble, and now you can't play. And now you probably lose your scholarship. And something happens, or you start, now they start making money, and I'll tie this in the NIL, where you start making money, and now you driving in a fast car. I was reading an article the other day about this particular, well, not particular, but the Georgia football team. Like they had an actual article on ESPN talking about how how the coach had to deal with so many of his young players getting speeding tickets because now they're making all this money, they're getting these fast cars, and now they're being punished. So that ties into that transition and balancing, because you're making all this money is getting to your head and is messing with you because of the fact, oh, you're trying to keep up with whoever or whatever, but at the same time, you're transitioning from high school to college, from college to being a pro or going overseas. And so, how does that affect a person, or how can they be able to balance that when now you got the NIL that plays a big part in high school and even high school and college now of people making money before they even get to the pros. They already making money. So how does that affect them in that way when it comes to that?
Well, first of all, NIL is like the Wild Wild West right now. Like it's crazy, man. And there was a time where growing up, you used to wait till your name is called. You walk across that stage on draft day. You like, yes, my dreams came true. All my financial worries is gone. Well, not anymore. These kids are making more money around that time before they even get to the draft now. So,
Yep.
I mean, and you really don't even have to do much to earn it. You could just be on a team and have a good Instagram following, and someone thinks or look at you as somebody that's marketable. Bam, there you go, a $350,000 deal. So it's definitely created a different dynamic now, especially, which I'm kind of jealous, but especially since the time that when we were in school. But I mean, you look at it. I say, just like they say, if you know better, you do better, right? Now, there are parameters that a lot of the leagues, via college or even the pros, they set up and they try to educate a lot of these incoming athletes with this stuff. Like, hey, watch who your friends are. So, because you get all this money, your friends, that's pressure right there. You know what I mean? You want to hold up an image, your family, all of this stuff. So they try to teach you about finances and how to maintain this and how to gather it. But we as people need to do a better job of actually applying the information that we're getting. Too. That's why I say if you know better, you got to do better. I mean, because if it's available to you to use and you don't use it, then you're putting yourself over here in the category that's probably going to lead to destruction. Because again, if that's something you automatically starting to have, and it starts to get heightened, and you never had it before, especially with money, then yeah, you're more prone to probably go crazy with it and have these type of issues, which brings all kind of different mental things that you're gonna have to deal with now, but especially when you get in trouble. I mean, if your mama come tell you, if back in the day when your mama come tell you you finna get a spanking, think about all the mental stuff we go through about the spanking we about to receive. So just think about, like you brought up, Kevin, the Georgia players. They get a speeding ticket, or I think it was one article where a staff member on the Georgia athletic administration died from a player driving a car, and they got in an incident. Think about that player who is responsible for that. All of those different things are now going mentally around of it. But you ask yourself a question: was some things put in place to educate that young person about this thing? So I just think there needs to be a little bit more of that, which, like I said, there are, but us as athletes or us as people, we got to use it.
Yeah, and I would just say that's not enough, right? Like, I agree with everything you just said, but it is not on the college to educate these young people on how to spend money. They are putting way too much responsibility on college coaches and administrators. And I'm sorry, what have they been learning at home for the last 18 years? Like, at some point, we are going to have to start teaching financial literacy in the home, because that's what I was taught in all my trainings through education. Parents are the first teacher. And so everything that the school system and the coach and everything else does is in support and partnership with the parents. And if we don't teach them for 18 years financial literacy, solid decision making, repercussions, how to have some level of foresight, that kind of stuff, even on down to taxes, especially if you know that your kids are going to go to college, and maybe these kids can get NIL deals, even before they enter college. And so what they're learning now is, okay, you got this large influx of money. Well, I'm used to getting a Pell Grant. Well, you're no longer eligible for that because your income has increased substantially. And if you don't report your income and pay taxes on it, that is a federal crime. And so that stuff has to be taught at home. We can't go 18 years not educating them on these types of things and then say, all right, college, university, I need you to give them a higher education. I need you to give them a scholarship and an opportunity. And then I also need you to teach them how to maintain it. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. And then we also have to, you know, teach them, you know, negotiating and all of that kind of stuff. Like at some point, what we're teaching should be simply reminders and reinforcement to what they have been learning at home for the last 18 years. It is not on us as coaches, as college administrators, as nothing. You know, they are 18. That's a lot of time that has gone by for them to be just now hearing about how to properly manage money, how to select the right friends, how to make good decisions that don't hurt other people, you know. And you know, we get it. We're not perfect. We made mistakes too. But I think that because you talked about the whoopings, you know, the punishment and the discipline that was taught at home when we got to the college level, I think there was a limit that we wouldn't go too far because of what we were taught in the home. And so when our coach had to reprimand us or discipline us, it was reinforcement to something we already knew. It wasn't brand new knowledge. And so we were able to reel it back in pretty quick because of that. And what we're seeing in today's age is these kids don't have that foundation of discipline. And so when they hit these different situations, they're really in shock that this is a bad thing. You know, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, or oh, this hurt somebody. Yeah, we should have all learned by the age of 5 that my decisions can hurt somebody else. So I have to be mindful and cognizant of that. But that's just, you know, my perspective on the way they should kind of handle, you know, the education piece. It can't start at 18 and 19 in college after they've got the big check. It's too late.
I totally agree with the Jacksons and Kevin. Like he said, if you know better, you do better. When we were coming up, our know better was our parents, which made us do better. We knew what we should and shouldn't do because we were taught in the household. So, I think this is just the NIL. I'm gonna be honest, and I know the Jacksons are probably gonna jump on me for this, but I'm kind of on the fence with the NIL, right? Because I get it. When being in college is very difficult, especially being a student athlete. Because you got class and then you got workouts and then you got studies and all of that stuff, and then you trying to do all these things and you don't have nobody's income. You know what I'm saying? You still trying to live life at a young age and play a sport that you hope pans out in the long run to be able to make it to the professional level. But, however, with that being said, I think this is the reason why it took so long for the universities to start paying these student athletes, because we now see what it has done in the recent years since the NIL has been put in play. There were actually 2 students that were killed in that accident from Georgia. A young lady and another football player was actually killed in that accident. And they've got numerous citations on the team of a bunch of Georgia Bulldog players with speeding tickets.
Yep.
They're getting this money, great amounts of money, and going out buying fast cars. We all know as young adults, that's why insurance is high for young adults, because we don't know any better. We're reckless when it comes to speed. We're reckless with our money. We're reckless in making decisions. So, in my opinion, the NIL, like I said, I'm on the fence with it, because I just feel like, I mean, just look at, even with young adults in pro sports. Let's talk about John Moran. Look at the crowd in which he hangs around. Look at what has got him into right now. He's not even in college no more. He ain't worried about no NIL. He's getting big bucks in professional sports, but he's making grade school mistakes.
Sean, you about to make me go on a rant. I know,
bro, but it's real. It's so real. He's making grade school mistakes, and this is a grown man who could possibly easily be the face of the NBA, But because of his actions and what he's doing currently is putting a stop to that. He is you know how many kids look up to John Morant because of his athleticism? This man is a freak of nature when it comes to basketball court. He's a freak of nature without any questions asked. He's a freak of nature. But because of his actions, there are reactions. And he finds himself in a predicament that we don't even know if he's going to be able to get out of. They're talking about trading him. They're talking about moving him. It's so many things being talked about this young man, and he's only been in the league, 3 seasons, 4 seasons? It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. We got to do, like he said, like Kevin said, man, if you know better, you do better. And right now, it's just, we ain't there yet.
So you kind of stole my thunder because that was one of my points I was gonna go into, but
oh my bad, I didn't know.
No, you good. So I'll just go right into it because I wanted to talk about this. He plays for my home team. I get asked all the time about John Morant because he plays for my home team, and I'm just like, yes, I'm a Memphis Grizzlies fan. Yes, I love John Morant. But these conversations that I have with people about this, I look at it in a different way, in a different perspective than other people. Just because I know and I've had my journey with mental health, and I understand that sometimes when it comes to someone dealing with mental health, they act out and they do things that you're not expecting them to do. But sometimes you never know what a person's going to do. Now, some of y'all might disagree with me on this or what I'm saying, but this is just me and my opinion. When I look at it from a standpoint, I look at it that we don't know what's going on with him internally. All we know is what the news feeds us, but we don't know what's going on with him internally. I'll give you another example. And this person was talked about during the Olympics for a minute, Simone Biles. When she stopped and she literally said, "Hey, I'm stopping my Olympics because I'm dealing with my mental health." But everybody criticized her because we focus so much on the person and hey, they got to do this, they got to do this. Well, she was representing the U.S., but they don't focus on the person until it's too late. And so, I wanted to get into this conversation because I feel like we're so pressed for them to go out there and perform. Yes, I get it. They're being paid all this money. Yes, I get it that every kid wants to be where some of these athletes are. But at the same time, they're still a person. They're still a person that has to get up in the morning and face whatever they have to face.
But
And
I
when
think
I
that's
look
the thing right there, though, Kevin. I think a lot of times, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to say this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's because as fans, I think we look at a lot of these player athletes as, well, I think we look at them like they're not human. We don't look at them as everyday Joes like the Jacksons, myself, or you. We don't look at them as we should, but because they make so much money and they're put on such a high pedestal, we overlook that. We overlooked the fact that they go through the same things we go through on a day-to-day, you know what I'm saying? Or even more, you know what I'm saying? Mentally, physically. The mental prep is just as important as the physical prep for anything in which you do in regards to sport. Everyone always thinks it's physical. It's a great deal of mental dealing with anything when it comes to sports. I'm sure the Jacksons can agree to that. I mean, if you're not mentally prepared for what you're about to do on the court, on the field, on the track, in the water, it could throw your whole game off. Your whole game off. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I mean, I'll just make this last point. When it comes to this, and you were saying that, one of the things that I always think about is that the fact that as an athlete, they are, trying their best to do what they need to do. But the thing that I always will say is that the media plays a big part in people's mental health, because the media they have to eat too. So if they're not getting the story that they want, they're going to twist the story to make it sound good, to get people to listen, to get people to read stuff that sometimes is not even true. And so I feel like, yes, was John Morant in the wrong place at the wrong time? Did he have to come on live? If he didn't come on live, we wouldn't never known about it. Got it. But at the same time, we don't know. Everyone automatically went to judge him versus to think about, if you were in that same situation, would you say the same thing that you're saying about him? But the thing is, like you said, we are looking at him because we put him on this high pedestal, and we're not looking at them that the fact that they're a human. Because after they retire, we don't care nothing about them after they retire. You don't even think about them. I mean, you think about you think about all these people that have played prior to, and you don't think about their mental health. I think about Delonte West,
Oh,
big
Mm,
big mental
mm,
health
mm,
situation.
mm.
They put all these articles, and social media,
mhm.
has been somewhat cruel to him and somewhat good to him. But the cruelty of it is looking at videos of, is that Delonte West, and what he went through, and how they just had all these articles that he went from making all this money to being homeless to just losing his mind because of the pressure of being who he was trying to be and was supposed to be to the public, but behind closed doors, we never knew what he was facing. So I just want y'all to touch on that, and then I have one more thing to talk about. But I wanted to talk about Simone Biles and John Morant and other people. I think about Magic Johnson. When he got diagnosed with HIV, what was he dealing with back then mentally? How was he dealing with that? But we don't talk about these things, but we look at we look at people and we say, man, they wrong. But you don't look at the fact that they're still human. We have to take this pedestal off of people and bring them down, because once they retire, once they leave the game, they're just another person to people.
Mhm.
They're old, dried up.
Wow, not
Hey,
dried up. Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
they're fruit. Are they a
Like
fruit,
fruit,
vegetable? I mean, good
fruit,
Lord, dried up.
fruit.
Wow. You saying about
but
me? Good Lord. Good God, dried up. Golly. What was they? I mean, I know we all made out of
Oh
sand, but good
man.
God,
but but
man.
but I mean, at the same time, it's just one of those things that I just it I'm a big sports fan. I look at every type of sport, and I just look at, and I can name numerous of people. Tiger Woods. I can go through the skier. I can't think of her name during the Winter Olympics, and people were messing with her because she was supposed to be this great skier, and she did terrible in the Olympics,
Mhm.
but everybody was criticizing her. But she even said that she had mental health stuff going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that. All we're focusing on is, you better get out here and perform because you're making all this money. Instead
You can
of,
say, yeah, you could say that about Shakara Richardson. Remember what happened with her? Just not
yep,
reaching the last
yep,
Olympics. You know what I'm saying? Everybody talked about her too, but it's crazy. Real quick, I want to give y'all a quick story, and I'll let the Jacksons have the floor real quick. Right? I'm gonna be the first to say I was one of the main people that judged Ja Morant. I was one of the first people to say, God, he dumb. Like, you stupid. You throwing your whole career away being dumb and young and dumb. But I had to sit back and think about what I was doing at his age. And I'm gonna show you this quick story. When I was still in the military. I was young, and at this duty station, right? I was at this one duty station. It was late at night. I was driving. I had a whole lot of things going through my mind. I was mentally not there. Um, I don't know, Jackson. Y'all don't have any military background, do you?
Mhm.
No. Okay. So in the military, I'm sure Kevin knows. In the military, you're not even supposed to go on post with a loaded weapon at all, right? None whatsoever. So I'm on post. I have this loaded weapon. It's not a military weapon. It's a handgun, but I have it. And on it some gates When I say, gates that lead you on post, at this one gate, it led to like the back side of the post where it was pretty much nothing but wood side. I don't know what was on the other side of the wood line, but it was just a bunch of trees, a field, and then the road just kind of like led all the way out into the gate, and it took you off post. One night, I got this wild hair, and I couldn't tell you why. Like I said, my mind wasn't completely there, or whatnot. However, whatever. And I had a gun. I had the gun on the seat. I had the gun on the seat. Just me in the car. Just me. For whatever reason, I said, let me grab this gun. I grabbed this gun. And I've shot guns before. I'm in the military. Of course I've shot weapons. It's nothing new to me. I grabbed this weapon, grabbed it, rolled the window down, and went to shoot the weapon out the window. Out the window. For no odd reason. Just being dumb and young. Thankfully, hindsight is 2020 after years and thinking about it, after realizing what a stupid gesture or a stupid mistake I was about to make. Thankfully, the gun jammed. The bullet never came out. It just jammed. Nothing ever came out the chamber. It jammed. And I didn't even try and force another round or anything out the weapon. I just put it back down. But who's to say that if a round would have came out, that gun, everybody knows if you shoot up in the air, that bullet has to land somewhere. It has to go somewhere. And who's to say what was on the other side of that wood line? A house? People camping? Who knows? I don't know, because I never been on that side. We know bullets travel, great distances. I could have killed someone, hurt someone. I don't know. But thank God, he made that gun jam and allowed me not to make a stupid mistake like I did. So I understand what you're saying, Kevin, when it comes to Ja Morant. He needs to choose better friends. Because the reason why he was on video wasn't because of him, it was because of his friend. His friend was going live. His friend went live, and he showed Ja Morant with the gun in his hand. It wasn't Ja himself. But then you get then this is where the mental come in at. You choose to pick your friends, and you choose friends that you try to get new friends because you don't want to go up with you don't want to keep the friends around like he had around who grew up with you, because they leading you down dark alleys in wrong directions. But then now they messing with your head, because now they say, oh, you done forgot where you came from.
Yeah.
Oh, you done made this money. You don't know who you are no more. Oh, you Ja Morant. Oh, you can't, we can't. I remember when you used to sleep on my couch. I remember when my mama used to take you to school with us. Or, I gave you some shoes, or I did this, I did that. Now he's playing with your mind, because now you torn. Wow. Do I keep him as my friend? He got a point. Or do I allow him to continue to make me look bad or make me make bad mistakes? Because your friends have a huge influence on some of the decisions in which you make. Peer pressure is a real thing.
Yeah.
Peer pressure is a real thing. You make some of the dumbest mistakes because of your peers. Some of the dumbest mistakes. You just want to be in. You want to be in the clique. You want to be in the crew. They did it. I'm doing it. But I've heard my mama many times. If your friends jump off that building, you jumping off the building too.
Yeah.
They kill themselves. You gonna kill yourself too?
Always say that. Yeah.
Man, come on. But Jackson, y'all got it. Y'all got it.
Yeah. I know for me, especially with the Ja Morant situation. See, this is a twofold situation here. I didn't judge Ja Morant, because as a former athlete, I understand what comes along with the territory, as far as what other kind of pressures you want to apply a word to. As an athlete, it's something that you don't ask for. Maybe some people do, but for most of us, we don't ask for it. It just comes along with the title. You're an athlete, everybody identifies, so everything you do, everywhere you go is heightened, right? But on the flip side, I will say I was disappointed with Ja Morant, and it wasn't because necessarily his actions. Now, I'll be honest with you, Kevin. You talked about what the media has done and all of this. Number one, as we know, things that we go through, especially mentally, or even for some people, even physically, it's rooted from something. It's rooted from something that we have to get help with. That's why we also need to pray for wisdom in these areas so we can navigate through these problems, especially these thoughts that just suddenly come upon us, and we asking ourselves, where does this come from? I wonder why this is here. Why am I feeling this way? Like, what is it rooted from, right? But we also, if we can't do anything, if we can't identify with these things either. But the reason why I'm disappointed because, like I was about to say, as far as the media goes, Kev, the media also has shown us who his John Moran's enablers are. You know what I mean? That's why I say I'm disappointed with him because it wasn't the first action that happened. It was the third one. I even give him some slack on the second one because after the first one, people started trying to get him. Other celebrities was reaching out to him. Like they put all of these systems. He even checked himself into a facility to get help. All of this stuff, and then he gets out and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. So also, I'm not, no point intended, but you look at his father and the way his father, you know, acts. You know, he acts like he's one of the homeboys, you know what I mean? And he, hey, Ja, you don't do me like he's obviously loving these types of things, which is also can be a peer pressure for Ja as well. I mean, that's his own dad. Like he wants to be on the front row seat in the court with the shades on, looking like Usher, all of this stuff. Like he's definitely like, you know what I mean? And we don't know what their dynamic is in the household, what they grow up or whatever. So, like that point, Kev, to your point of we don't know what he's going through behind closed doors. You're right, we don't, but we know it's stemming and rooted from something. But the disappointment is always going to come. I know for me with this situation from him is when these parameters and all these different things get into place, and he is not applying them or declining them because it's some help that he declined that's out there in reports and been on TV and the news. So we as athletes, I know for me, if I'm in his shoes, since we're talking about putting ourselves in his shoes or whatever, me, I'm a competitor. I want to win. I don't really care about the limelight. Whatever. It's always about the team. Like I'm a more of a team oriented person in that aspect of it. I'd rather be a backseat driver than a front seat driver. I don't care about all of this other stuff. That's just me personally as an athlete. But if I know I got some things going on with it, like because I need to be better for my team, and for me at this point, if I'm an athlete now and I got a family, I need to be better for my family and my team, all of this stuff. I gotta go get help. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna take myself out of the equation and get right before I get back into the equation and give the media a reason to catch me in all of these different type of things. Because also at the end of the day, at his level, he messing around with a whole lot of money that he could definitely lose. Because he's almost on the verge. I read one report. They don't even know if he's gonna be in the NBA at this point if he keeps these things up. So it's a twofold situation for me. I understand it as an athlete. I'm also, like I said, the disappointment. I don't judge him, but I'm just disappointed as the people around him and the things that he's been declining.
Which that's pretty common. And I mean, from the parental perspective, your parents have to set you up for success.
Yeah.
They can't be so busy trying to be your friend, like you said, or live through you, to where they don't see your blind spots. Because we all have them, and you better surround yourself with people that can speak to them and put support into place. I mean, I'll just say from the perspective of student or just athletes in general and the mental health perspective is you are a person first. All of us, we are people first. And that's one of the things our opening statement and meeting with the players when they get here in a couple of weeks with their parents, they are people first. And there's nothing that they can do. There's no amount of shots they can make and rebounds that they can get that will ever make them being an athlete more important than them being a human being first to us. And so, but not all coaches, teach that. Not all coaches create that environment. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean that it's not true. It's still true. And I think that stuff has to be taught again. I'm back to this at home. Parents have to kind of teach that and let them know that, hey, it's okay if you go out and have extreme success. I still love you. But guess what? If you go out and have an extreme failure, I'm going to love you all the same. My love doesn't hinge on either the high nor the low. And giving them a place of contentment in their identity outside of what they do, it's got to be at home. You could have grown up in a single parent home like I did, like, Kevin did, where me personally, there were issues with those types of things. And so you do cling on to sports to deal with, the rejection or the abandonment issues that you have from your childhood. Because I'm having this great achievement. If you ever watched T.O.'s show when he had one, he talked about, he got with a counselor and they talked about the reason why he pushed so hard in his sport was it was almost like trying to get his dad's attention, who apparently lived right across the street his whole childhood. And so he was having all this extreme success in his sport. And it was this little boy crying out for his dad to just notice me and acknowledge me. And that's not everybody's story, but certainly some of these mental health issues do stem from things like that because something is off in the home, in the childhood. And so then they start, pouring in the sports to get whatever void is there. And then the last thing I'll say is when it comes to receiving help, the NCAA published some studies about a year ago, 2022, and they interviewed like almost 10,000 student athletes across the country. And they said that even with all the mental health support that they put in place at all these different institutions and mandatory days off, and mental health has been a big push in the NCAA. They said that through their surveys that almost 50% of student athletes did not feel comfortable going and asking for help or getting help. They knew where to go. They knew that the resources were available. They just didn't feel comfortable asking for help. And, you kind of don't know what you don't know. And so if somebody is struggling with something, the greatest influence we talked about was that peer pressure. Their teammates are usually going to know. A teammate is going to know what's going on with their teammate. And so some of it is they just don't feel comfortable opening up. And I get it, You never know if you're gonna be judged or if this is really a safe space, but it's gotta mean more to you to have stability in the long term. And if it doesn't mean something to you, then I would want you to maybe get around people where it means something to them. Because me personally, I think that that's important that we show up as our best selves. And if I don't know how to do that within my own right, I'm going to go and seek help. I'm going to go and ask for help. Just like y'all get skills training on how to shoot and how to dribble around 20 cones and how to run this sprint faster. I mean, why can't we do that same thing and feel comfortable getting help with those mental, internal dialogue, all of that kind of stuff. There's the self-talk, the pressures like Simone Biles, like the pressures that she felt. Like why don't we, help her feel just as comfortable getting help with the mental side as she got help with the physical side? She went to a trainer. She didn't become an Olympian on her own. So it's one and the same. And I agree. Like just like Sean said, like it's more mental than physical. The physical part is probably only about 10% of the game. Right. Most of it is mental, and so we have to be comfortable ourselves, acknowledging that we went and got help or support through this or support through that, dealing with my anger issues, dealing with my abandonment issues. I went and sought help. And so then now when I express that to my student athletes, they feel comfortable opening up, but it's still not 100%. But it at least hopefully lets some of the nervousness down, and that they'll want to get help. But almost 50% of them said they just don't feel comfortable asking.
Right.
Wow.
Tell you what, I congratulate all those athletes who do seek help and who do use their platform to spread the fact that it's okay to get help. I know for me, and Bernita and I talk about this all the time. When it was time, when my time in college was up, and I had no more eligibility to play, that means, I ain't going to play pro ball like it's over. It is so hard, especially if you're a competitor and you like to play, you love the team camaraderie, that locker room thing, all of that. It's hard to turn the switch off, man. Like it is hard
Totally
because
agree.
all you knew was this
It's a
thing.
sport.
You had a routine and you did it, all of that, and then it goes away. Kind of like the limelight, maybe for Simone Biles or John Moran or anybody else that's out there that's on that platform. Okay, you get everybody cheering and hooping, hollering your name. You in the media, good or bad, you in the media, all that, and then you go home. Lights, camera off. You have to shut it off. Can you? What made Michael Jordan so great? Mentally, he would trick himself to think and do all of these different things to turn this relentless switch on for him to just go up here. But when you ask yourself, you look at a player like Mike, what did he do to come down? Like Mike, you was up here all 24/7. Were you down when his father passed away and he retired? Who's to say? Who's to say he didn't stay up here? Maybe that gave him even more incentives to come back. So you're right, Sean. It's a mental game,
It is.
But this is why we need to honestly bring more awareness to this platform for athletes, for everybody. But again, it has to come with wisdom. It has to come with wisdom and the people around you. Because don't sit there and look at someone who's hungry and thirsty for information and walk past them and don't feed them or don't give them nothing to drink. That you are also an enabler. You know what I mean? That's something else Bernita and I talk about all the time too. How many times did somebody walk past me knowing I was hungry for something? They didn't feed me. They ain't give me nothing to drink. You know what I mean?
And then same with these celebrities. Why does it take a public breakdown? Like before the media got a hold of it, you mean no cousin or auntie was around and saw that something was off? I kind of, that frustrates me because I think, we as people have to do better. And before it ever got to the public eye, somebody saw them struggling. And we got to do better because before anything else, the performance, all of that stuff, we're people, and you're right. After we retire, them people not, they ain't knocking down our doors, paying us $1 million checks. We got to stretch your money. We got to make it last.
Amen.
But Bernita, real quick, right? And when you brought that up, right? You did that last comment, that statement which you made, right? You said, did anybody recognize the signs, the red flags and stuff like that? And I know this would probably be a touchy subject, but we got to talk about it because it's happening across the country and it's steady happening all the time. And God, please don't allow it to happen anytime soon, or if we can stop it from happening, Lord Jesus. Mass shootings, right? They happen all the time. And it's happening a lot in the schools and all of that. And we all know it's a mental breakdown with these individuals that are going into these places, killing up thousands of people, a lot of people. But my question is, you say, or you stated, Anita, that did anyone notice the red flags? Sometimes the red flags can be right in front of you, and therefore you ignore it because you don't want to be judgmental.
Right.
You don't want to be that person to say, "Oh, something's wrong with that person," and have an opportunity for someone to say, "Oh no, you're wrong," and you look bad because you made judgment on something that you felt was a red flag, and it come out not to be true. You know what I'm saying? So
That's true.
I totally understand what you're saying, but I also see I agree with you in some aspect because I saw the documentary about Terrell Owens, about his dad living right across the street. He knew nothing about it. Living right across the street. It was an outcry. I totally agree. It was an outcry to his dad, to get attention from his dad, to have his dad, reach out to him and tell him more about what was going on, or want to be loved by his father. But I also feel like there's, when it comes to John Morant, when it comes to Simone Biles, when it comes to what's the young lady that plays tennis, even she had a mental, she needed some mental health. The
You talking
Korean,
about
uh,
Osaka?
Osaka,
Osaka.
yeah, her. Like people may see these things, and I don't think they ignore them purposely. They just don't want to be. They just don't want to feel. Um, they don't want to be judgmental. You know what I'm saying, Kevin? A lot of times, I don't think these people want to be judgmental when it comes to wanting to reach out to these individuals and say, "Hey, this is, I think this person may have some mental issues, or maybe going through some things, or so forth and so on." Because when you do that, it shines a light on you, and if it happens to be wrong, then everybody's like, maybe you have the mental issue, maybe you have something going on with you, because you seeing things that other people may not even be seeing. So I just feel like sometimes that's just, um you know it's a judgment call. And I don't know, some people, I feel like, have a tendency not to want to say anything because of that, in
Yeah,
my
I
opinion.
got you. I got you. Trevion, can we bring back Kevin and Bernita? I think they got lost.
There they go. They got it. Just probably got to.
Can y'all hear?
Yeah, we hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay, all right. So man, like I had two more points to bring out, but I'm going to save them for the panel. But just think about it. If y'all are able to be on that panel, it's going to be every guest that I've had. Well, not every guest, but most of the guests that I've had for this season. But the other 2 points that I wanted to talk about is race and how that plays a part with sports and mental health and Black Lives Matter, how that movement went on during the pandemic and after, like, and how that affected mentally. I mean, race has always been a thing, and even in sports. Um, and then the other thing, which I really wanted, it to be a big conversation on this is the fairness of how men and women are treated when it comes to athletes. And I remember the NCAA basketball, how they were saying in Indianapolis how the women got this and they didn't get what the men got, and so
Mm-hmm.
that was a big article. That was a big
Mm-hmm.
they put that on ESPN. It was something that was talked about for weeks because they looked at how women were being treated, and that can have an effect on those players. And even in the WNBA, I'm looking
Huge.
at the highest paid member in 100,000s, and you got players making way over, millions of dollars in the NBA, and the fairness of that. So definitely gonna save that for the panel because there'll be a lot of stuff talked about during that time. But I appreciate y'all. But before we end, I want to have you all have your last thought. It could be about anything we discussed, anything you want to say, but your final thoughts as we end this conversation.
Okay, we just want to first say thank you for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to talk to you about an important, just subject that's near and dear to us, mental health, especially with athletes. I think probably the final thought I would just say is, back to you are a person first, and our kids, they are a person first before they do anything else and get involved with anything else. They're a person first, and I think it's important that even after we finish playing and finish performing, that we separate and say, okay, I did the best that I could in that moment, and now I'm gonna just go be a good human being. And even as a coach who has had tons of accolades, I mean, I've gotten Coach of the Year 2 years in a row. We won the conference. We went to the Sweet 16 this past year, and at the end of the day, I still have to kind of remove that when I leave that arena, and I got to go home and just, be a good wife, be a good mom, and be a good person. Because after all of that said and done, to the core of me, that's who I am. And I don't ever want to mix the two. So if I have a rough season, I'm not all of a sudden a bad person. It was a rough season, and I'll re-strategize, recruit, and get a lot better. But I think it's important that we keep that at the forefront. We're people first, and what we do is just that, is what we do. It's not our identity.
No, I absolutely agree. Kev, thank you for having us on today. Thank you, and Sean, for your points. You made some great, valid points. I love the show. Keep it up.
Yeah.
I think this is very much needed in today's time. But I agree with Bernita. You are a person first before a player. You can't be a player without being a person. So you got to remember that. But also carry yourself with a great level of grace. And if you're not a person that's familiar with grace, first get to know Jesus, and you will get supplied with the information of grace all you need. Because when you know and understand that you have a little bit more grace than probably what you realize, you can navigate your issues a little bit better, especially from a forgiveness standpoint. Sometimes we have issues because we don't even forgive ourselves.
Sure.
Because we don't even understand the level of grace that we're under if you are obviously a believer. So you have to just make sure that you remind yourself of that. And don't do anything you're not educated about. It'd be the same thing if I'm a preacher, I can't go preach if I don't know God's word. If I'm a coach, I can't go and coach, at least with some sort of efficiency and greatness, if I don't understand plays. I can't be a great player if I don't understand, what I'm supposed to do out on the field of the court. So, mental health is also something else. I have to educate myself on it, get tools to use, because when adverse times comes, even if it's just mental, you want to be prepared so you don't be reacting all the time. Be, proactive. So I want to leave you guys with that.
All right. And Sean?
First of all, let me say thank you, Kevin, again, for allowing me to be on this platform. Thank the Jacksons. They made some great points. I enjoyed being on here with them as well. I totally believe mental health is definitely a touchy subject matter, especially in sports, and especially just all around. When it comes to mental health, it definitely needs to be addressed. It's not something that's a joke, and it definitely needs to be adhered to, that people understand mental health, because we all go through it in some way, form, or fashion, and we try to deal with it the best way we know how. In regards to the three topics in which you have coming up on the panel, for the panel, those are going to be some great topics. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, because I know that's a touchy subject when it comes to women in sports, and a lot of people have their views about that, including myself. So definitely looking forward to that. But again, thank y'all. Uh, Thank you all for tonight's conversation. It was well needed, well worth it, and I'm glad you had me on the show. Y'all have a great evening.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all. Hey, so before we end, again, next week, same time. Next week, I'm excited. We're bringing back part 2 of talking about mental health and the stigma with men, because I couldn't end that because it was so much to unpack. So I'm still going to have the same people. My own biological brother's going to be on. Going to have some more folks on. Hope to have some more men on that show. So I can't wait till next week. Tune in as we do part 2, mental health and men. So appreciate you all again, Bernita and Kevin Jackson and Sean Davis. Thank y'all for joining. So whether it's early morning, mid afternoon, or late at night, a cup of joe and conversation will always get you right. This is Kevin Smith, Coffee and Conversation. Have a good night.